wasn't excited for this. When I heard Roger Craig Smith's voice in the movie, my inner child was just doing cartwheels hearing Sonic's voice in a major Disney motion picture about video games. My major gripe with this is that he wasn't used more extensively. He only had 2 scenes and that was it.
I appreciate it's not his movie and he only has to be a background character per se to the real star, Wreck-It Ralph, but a couple of lines of more dialogue wouldn't have been unreasonable. But what would I know?
Sonic 4 Episode 2 appeared on online networks with Tails now accompanying Sonic just as he did during the Genesis years. This was a fun experience with zone designs once again being influenced from early titles such as Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 with levels like Aquatic Ruins, Carnival Night and Ice Cap Zone. The aspect of having the two curl up into a spinning wrecking ball was fun as it added real momentum that could get you from A to B much quicker. Sad to say, there is not likely to be a sequel to this as Sega left it up to the fans if they wanted a sequel. Oh dear. Back in 2010, there were 2 fan film projects that were attempting to make a Sonic movie. One being an animated piece that was being helmed by Richard Kuda that wanted to see a continuation of Saturday Morning, which I would love to see that continued as that was cut way too soon.
And the other was by the head of Blue Core Studios, Eddie Lebron, who attempted to make a half-animated, half-live-action Sonic movie, even acquiring the services of Jaleel White to reprise his role as Sonic the Hedgehog.
Like with Sonic Generations, my only major criticism with this specification flick is that it was short. But because Sonic was going to be a CG character, and that would therefore be most of the movie's budget, then that would be understandable why they were limited with the runtime they had.
I really liked DJ Hazzard's performance as Robotnik, borrowing very heavily from the tone that Jim Cummings had made in Satam, as this cold, ruthless dictator that saw humanity as a privilege rather than a right.
I really enjoyed the cameo of James Rolfe as a newsreader and think he would do well as such if he ever wanted to retire from podcasting. Another cameo in the form of Doug Walker, also known as the Nostalgia Critic, who plays a GUN soldier that utters no line of dialogue, and what's interesting is that he gives a good performance as you're performing with just your body and face, which takes exceptional talent to have when you have no words to read from. And as for Jaleel, it was like he never left. It had been 13 years since we last heard him as the Hedgehog with Attitude in 1999 Sonic Underground, and in this flick, he voices him with a slightly deeper and mature delivery that is recognizable as Sonic, but it sounds like he's either 18 or 19 as opposed to 15, as he's been for the last 25 years.
I found it amusing that the movie poked fun at Sonic 360 with this scene.
An islander.
The blur.
The blue blur. Pretty sure you've heard of me considering I'm number 1 on Robotnik's hit list. The blue blur is cool, but you got me, Sonic. See something you like? I hope not. I mean, you're pretty and all, but...
No.
For me, that just showed that the producers had a real decent sense of humor, and to see Sonic making fun and criticizing that was just hilarious.
Following are extracts from RandomDCE's review of Sonic and the Lost World from his DeviantArt page, which I shall leave a link in the description below. With each new release, Sonic tends to see small modifications of the previous game's formula. Here the framework has been replaced with a style of gameplay that reminds me in places of Super Mario Galaxy. That's the thing though. Reminded of Mario Galaxy, but not a blatant copy of Mario Galaxy that misinformed people seem to like pointing out. Mario Galaxy incorporated mechanics with the Wiimote while exploring things of anti-gravity in outer space. Sonic Lost World uses floating platforms with parkour elements. Similar, yes. Inspired even, possibly the same. Oh no. To say both have floating platforms that you can run around, that makes them the same. It's like saying Call of Duty and Metroid Prime shoot from the first person, which makes them the same. Or Legend of Zelda and Assassin's Creed have swords in them, that makes them the same, and so on and so on. It should have pointed out that Nintendo kind of lent a hand in the game's creation, so maybe it was done on purpose? And the passing resemblance to the cancelled Sonic Extreme came to mind on occasion as well. Similarities or not, I like the gameplay of Lost World. Maybe I'm just that easy to please. The choice between two speeds is a welcomed addition for me. Because of how Lost World is structured as a more platform-centric game, the old staple of gotta go fast that people mistake the franchise for wouldn't have been very effective. There have been times in, say, Sonic Unleashed where Sonic is blistering through a level far too quickly that I'd occasionally fall to my death, for I had to land on a specific area. Here I have two speeds, so when it comes time for tricky platforming, I can switch not to find myself falling to my death for the umpteenth time. I was impressed with the range of the homing attack, being able to target enemies from a much greater distance. Not sure why you can now target multiple badniks at once when going from one to the other. Still gets the job done. Returning are regular techniques such as the spin dash and the bounce attack that debuted in Sonic Adventure 2. New to the mix is a kick attack, which only has a use against certain enemies and bosses. It's essentially a slower homing attack, but not as effective. The enemy variety shifts back to badniks from the likes of Sonics 1 to 3, and I welcome this change. From dealing with bland egg pawns, Black Arms aliens, very boring looking mechs in 06 and Dark Gaia creatures in Unleashed, I'm glad to see a return of an enemy that I actually give a care about. The levels themselves never felt frustrating or too difficult until the final world. Act 2 can die in a fire, his words. Which ultimately capped off with a rather easy final boss. It's kind of strange when the second to last boss is harder than the final one. Also returning are the Wisps, which confused me in all honesty. I thought they were a one-time deal with Sonic Colors? Seeing them back here with no real context didn't make a whole lot of sense. The returning Wisp powers, this being my first time using them, all handled very well, while the newer ones were lackluster and I tended to avoid them on repeated visits to older stages. The parkour elements seem to be the main innovation in Sonic Lost World, which I must say are clumsily implemented. While I applaud the level design for having multiple wisps so you can bypass them, it's the moments later in the game where they are mandatory that become a little irksome for me. I know Sega wants Sonic to be an ever-evolving franchise and not be stuck in the past like Mario, but this is an element that really wasn't needed for the game. The boss fights are the only real place I'd find something akin to difficulty, mainly due to the fact I wasn't sure what to do at first. Overall, what I will say is the game did surprise me on occasion. Rather than being the same 4 levels, it would occasionally change the scenery or offer in some new mechanics to explore. What I will bemoan is how the game tries to incorporate the Wii U tablet in a means that aren't called for. Pausing the action to access info on the touchscreen tablet breaks flow when the same feature should be displayed on the TV. Wisp's power-ups became irritating for that reason alone, and that most of them can be used without resorting to the touchscreen technology. About that story! I know Sonic games are not on the caliber of Shakespeare in terms of narrative, but they were never this convoluted or up their own you-know-what. Coming off the heels of the likes of Colors and Generations, I knew the Sonic series was leaving the days of "Ow, the edge" seen in Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow of the Hedgehog, and 06 long behind. Yet even those stories weren't trying to make you laugh with cringe-worthy material that not even "and his name is John Cena" would say aloud. With no explanation on how he and his classic self escaped the void, Eggman is stealing animals to power mechs with Sonic and Tails in hot pursuit. They end up on a hexagon-themed planet called the Lost Hex. And that is all the explanation you're getting. I didn't mind it too much for Little Planet, also known as the Miracle Planet. The Death Egg and the Floating Island got the exact same treatment in the Mega Drive days, so I'm not going to nitpick. The thing I hate about the Lost Hex, it's home of the worst Sonic antagonist since the likes of Iblis and the Babylon Rogues. The Deadly Six come off as half-baked attempts at antagonists and nothing short of cliché. To make matters worse, I feel Sonic's new characterization comes off as cringeworthy. I realise I'm biased towards the old Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, but even that show didn't stoop to awful jokes about Baldy McNosehair and other terrible stuff that made me want to slam Sonic's head in between a car door. I know they're aiming for a younger audience, but this stuff honestly belongs on an episode of Dora the Explorer or the Teletubbies. Wow, that's a dated reference, dude. Then we get this soap opera halfway through about Tails being jealous of Eggman and feels Sonic doesn't trust him. We go through corny jokes to suddenly, "You don't trust me, I'm leaving you and taking the kids." Oh, that's a mental picture I didn't need. You know it's bad when I find the villain to be the more likeable character. On that note, yeah, Eggman really is the best character in the entire game. The jokes with him actually stick the landing. He's the voice of reason and really sums up what I'm thinking half the time. It's so strange how Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik keeps getting better with each game while Sonic himself keeps getting progressively worse. I dread the release of Sonic Adventure 3 where Sonic starts talking like Roman Reigns. No. No. No one needs to see that. No. I'm not the bad guy. I'm not even the good guy. I'm just the guy. I can just imagine Roger saying that. Don't make this happen. In short, this story is a major misstep with Sonic Lost World, and I'll skip it if I ever replay this game down the road. The gameplay is a solid experiment that could have done without the parkour element. It's not the worst Sonic game ever made, while it's not the best either, because Sonic 3 and Knuckles is a hard act to beat. It's on the same level as the likes of Sonic Adventure and Sonic 3D with me. Nice ideas, but could have done without the padding.